Hey there, Jeff from Hawkeye Marine. So today's episode, I wanted to just say that we got the 40 horsepower 40C Mariner back. It's running. I had to gravity bleed, or the fuel pump went out, so I took the tank and I set it on the buddy seat, and then I just kind of squeezed the bulb until I had enough fuel in the carburetors where it would run. Here's the fuel pump, and this little inlet well, this is the outlet. It's nice they labeled it in and out. So this is your out, and there's a hole back here that's the pumping action from the engine, or the compressed air causing the check valves to pump. So and your diaphragm. But anyway, they're old. This is a 27-year-old engine. It's a 1993 Mariner, 40 horsepower. It's a C40L. This is an L, 2-cylinder, 2-cycle. Yeah, it's running. Choke is on. It was working. That was one of the issues. So we had power all the way back to the choke. Put the choke in. It's choking good now. Running good. Lower unit's on. New water pump. I haven't filled it with oil yet. I'm going to do that today. And should have my fuel pump in a day or two. And get that on. Maybe do a final video and show it running and ship it. So we're done with that one. I guess you know, the cylinder, I did some reading up on this a little bit, because you know what caused it is what I'm interested in. Was it some debris that got sucked through the carburetor? Was it some debris from the exhaust? You know, was it some pieces of like the a prior water pump that it kind of came apart, got sucked up into the engine? Yeah, some debris, because there was some rubber hose in it. There's some rubber pieces that look like a rubber hose to me. You know, one interesting thing is that in my research in the internet, which what can you believe out of that, right? Sometimes. This wasn't on a forum. It was a YouTube video. A guy was talking about design, and of course he had a really small one. But I guess as the RPMs increase, there's just a little bit of movement of that piston. And so once it reaches to a certain RPM, as I understand it, I'm no expert, I'm just trying to figure this out. You know, the internal engine has basically a resonant frequency. And so once it gets to that, you know, it's really vibrating. And the piston and everything is vibrating. And that little bit of clearance on the ring seems to be a problem with two-cycle motors in general. Not anything in particular, but that piston, and we're talking about an individual piston. It doesn't matter. There's two pistons, you know, 6 pistons, 3 on each side, or you know, 8 for that matter. Once it gets to this point of RPMs, it reaches an effect where you know, the resonant frequency. So it's got so much clearance, and it's such that the ring, as it opens, catches on one of the ports, usually like an exhaust port. And you know, it's possible. I don't know if that was the case on this engine or not, but you know, it does kind of point out that, like, when they test these and they say, okay, well, this one standard is like 5,800 RPMs, right? So if you don't have a tachometer and you don't know what the RPMs are, it's very possible you could go well above that, and then you could cause yourself a bunch of damage in the engine. So it's good to have a tach. You know, this is a little John boat, so you know, who knows? And somebody had obviously been in there before to do some work, and there was evidence of that, like the gasket material on the intake, where it's not supposed to have any gasket material there. There's no reason for the intake to leak unless it's out, like it's, you know, it's been warped a little bit, you know. So you got to check it with a straight edge and make sure that it's just flush, and then don't over torque your bolts. So when you take a piston out, and you know, you decide, okay, I'm going to change out a piston, you know, you got to consider a bunch of factors. You know, how are all the bearings, are they good? You know, is the crankshaft, is it you know, is it moved some, or has it, you know, the material that's around where the piston, you know, the piston arms, like that area, you know, what is its, like, tolerance? Has it been, you know, like eroded or grinded away? I'm trying to come up with the right words to describe it, but, you know, it's got to be in clearance, or, you know, the thing is going to move. So, you know, I think in general, like, to do something correctly, you know, you want to replace all the bearings, check your piston arms, and see that they're good, like they seem like they're really good. You need to bore it out. You need to bore the cylinder, and it's, in this case, it has a sleeve, so you only have so much material. So it really, you need to, like, look at that and decide, you know, okay, because if it has to have a new sleeve, a machine shop will have to do that as well. Put a new sleeve in it. Pistons, replace all your pistons. So then you got new pistons, new rings, a bored out cylinder, and honed. And then the last, you know, you hone it after you bore it out, so it's got the cross hatch mark. The cross hatch, the way it works is as the rings go up the cylinder walls, the oil kind of goes between those grooves, and it helps it seal off. If it's just a smooth piston, the oil is going to go past the rings. How much, we don't know, but as that, it's going to wear down those rings, and then you're going to have more leakage. So if you have the crosshatch, it's going to take a long time to erode the crosshatch down to a smooth bore. So a machine shop is your best shot. You know, we're talking 3 thousandths of an inch, you know, you could hone it, but it's going to take you a long time, and you're going to go through a few hones. If you get a cheap hone, you know, you can get it at Harbor Freight for like $20. You want a Lyle, it's going to cost you $125. I'm not a machinist, you know, so a machine shop, or finding a machine shop that'll do it, is the way to go. So, you know, there's more expense. You know, you could have, you know, anywhere from $800 to $1,000, depending on what other parts you need to replace on an engine, just doing, you know, that kind of stuff. So the parts themselves aren't really expensive. Like on that engine, it was like $67 for a piston. So you got, you know, that times like 2, And then to replace, you know, all the bearings, you're looking $150, maybe, yeah, maybe, I guess, or less. So it's not too bad, you know. Your needle bearings too, that's going to cost you a little bit. You want to replace all your needle bearings, and you know, hopefully your on your piston arm where it connects to the crankshaft, you know, you got to check that in there too and make sure that it's not worn down. So there's a lot of things, you know, to look at, and you know, but if you're going to rebuild the engine, like, just rebuild it. You know, you can go cheap and you can say, I'm going to put the piston in and replace it. It's going to cost you a lot less money. You know, on an older engine, is it worth it? Is it not? Depends. But I like the idea of just doing it solid, and then it's good to go for another 27 years, you know. So that's kind of cool that it lasts that long if somebody takes care of it. So anyway, that's my little update, and I'll get once I get the fuel pump in, you know, I'll shoot some video running, and you know, and we'll ship it. So we'll see you guys soon. This engine, okay, nowhere on the engine can I find, you know, usually there's a sticker somewhere and it tells you the timing, and I don't know, they don't have it, and I can't find it, and then I don't have a book, so unfortunately. But yeah, I looked on the internet, try to get as much information as I could, what I can find anyway, and I really don't want to spend, you know, the money to go get a manual, which I may, you know, but I'm ready to ship this. So if you look on the flywheel, you know, it's kind of like you can't really, it's, I mean, you can read it, but it's anyway, it's difficult. So I didn't see, you know, I have a 10 and then I had a 30, and I looked through there and I didn't see anywhere top dead center. So I got out my dial indicator, which is right there, and I just hooked it up here and put it in there, took the spark plug out, checked its gap, make sure it was right. So I put this in here, and then I rotated it around, and where my needle, you know, it comes around, the needle will come around, and then once the piston starts going back, then it'll start to come back, right? So I found that, so I found top dead center, and when I did, I looked, lo and behold, right there. So there's the timing pointer, right? It's that little plastic piece. It's that little plastic piece right there, right? So you got 10, and then it, lo and behold, like I said, it's hard to do with my finger in a way, there's TDC. You can see it says 10, right? And right there it says top dead center. So if you look, you can also see there's a dot, and see, like, it's a dot is right on 10. If we come over to this side, right, there's the other dot. It says top dead center. So that's our top dead center. So from 10 to 0, how many marks do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 0. Right? And this is before top dead center. And then we want it to fire after top dead center. So we want it to fire over here. And from what I can see, Stu from Danger Marine on most of these, he said in the book it was 7 degrees after top dead center, plus or minus 1. So if we can get it in the 6, then, you know, it'll be firing in time. And so to do this and kind of show it, I'm gonna have to get my remote start put on so that I can do it from here. We can see it with the timing light, and yeah, so it just seemed like it was a little advanced, you know, after I kind of adjusted with it. The carburetors are doing fine, you know, I kind of got them adjusted out by idle, but if we don't have our fire correctly, then we may not have full explosion. That makes sense. Like if it's I don't know if it's way advanced or if it's retarded. We don't know. It's probably, well, it's hard to say, you know, until I put that timing light on there. So I'm going to show that. And otherwise, I mean, it's running. I'm ready to get it done. And I'm going to check the timing. I got my timing light. I got to start it to do this. Hopefully you can see that. Once I came down to idle, we're right at top dead center. So this linkage here. So if we go in, it's going to push it back even further. If we come out, then it should be better. So yeah, if we push in, then it's gonna bring this, it's gonna turn it this way, right? If we turn this in, it's gonna bring this back this way. So I think we gotta come in. So gently. So if we go in, it's alright. So let's go. I think we go in. So weird. So we want to push it more. So I'm gonna go like 3 turns. There's a half, 1. So yeah, now I'm at top dead center. Probably went the wrong way.